Chop, chop, chop!
I am a helicopter!
Chop, chop, chop! I'm a helicopter, cop, turn me around with my rear rotor, spin forever, won't stop, stop, stop! I'll rise to the top, top, top! My gonna shoot you down, pop, pop, pop! You better eject, drop, drop, drop! When you get in a helicopter in a video game, you know you mean business. Whether you're on a rescue mission or out to destroy everything. Now, often in helicopter games, you are tasked with both. Why just shoot everything when you have the precision maneuvering to also go in and save people too? So today I want to lightly touch on a few helicopter games I have. First is the game you're already watching, Chopper Command, for the Atari 2600. It plays a lot like Defender, and what this game does well is it gives a feeling of momentum. Helicopters are sky tanks after all. They go where you want them to go. It just takes some time to get them to respond. And as such, you have to always be thinking ahead. Until you understand this game's momentum, you'll probably crash into the enemies, as when you turn around, though you are pointing in the other direction and are able to shoot, your helicopter still moves in the original direction for a bit. So momentum is very important to convey the heft of a helicopter and make it feel like you're playing a helicopter game. Another very important aspect is the artillery that a helicopter has. Now you want your helicopter to be very powerful. And this game does that. I mean, you go into the battlefield and you just can take out everybody. But it's not typical of what you'd kind of expect from a helicopter game. This one has a giant laser, and as I said before, it plays like Defender, so that's probably why. But in most games it's missiles and bombs and bullets. And in other games you'll see how that comes into play. This is Super Cobra on the 2600. Though it's also a side-scrolling game, its values are opposite from Chopper Command's. Gone is the momentum, and with it, the freedom. This game is a forced side-scrolling game. But this game does come closer to showing helicopters as flying munitions factories. Your helicopter has its main forward shot and bomb. Each press of the Atari's singular button alternates what type of shot is fired. This helps show that while helicopters are brutes, they are strategic ones. This is Tiger Heli for the NES. This game is fun enough, but there is nothing about it that really makes it a helicopter game other than it is drawn as a helicopter instead of, say, a pickle or a tulip. There is no particular flight physics, and the firepower is generic and hits airborne and ground foes alike, as it's two-dimensional plane. But there are mini helicopters that join you, so that's something. I can't say that I love Airwolf for the NES. It's not awful, but nothing in it is done particularly well. I like the balance between annihilating everything and then rescuing people, but what really draws me to the game is the opening theme. I mean, if nothing else, this game just tickles my nostalgia from being a kid watching the show on TV. And it was, of course, this show that made me realize that helicopters could be badass to begin with, and eventually led to this video many years later. What you're seeing on your screen right now is Choplifter for the Sega Master System. Like Chopper Command, you have the freedom to roam on a two-dimensional plane. Like Airwolf, you get to destroy things and rescue people in equal measure. Now, Choplifter is many times better than either of those games. In fact, it's almost the perfect helicopter game for me. The music is top-notch, the graphics are bright and crisp, the gameplay is fast, tough, and fully embraces the rush of risk-reward gameplay. My only criticism isn't even a negative, it's that the gameplay is played defensively. The exchange of murder machine to slip in, slip out is actually badass in its own way, as we've learned from stealth games over the years. This is the Raid on Bunchling Bay for the NES. This game is interesting in that it inspired Will Wright to make the Sims series, which also spawned Simcopter, which I'm not going to be talking about in this video, so if you're expecting it, I'm sorry. Now, when I rented this game as a kid, I didn't know what to do, and I didn't like it. Now, after getting it as an adult and doing 3 seconds of research, I liked it a lot more. Now, this game has that nice physics momentum I talked about earlier. In the game, you have to take out these particular buildings, I think they're factories, and also protect your aircraft carrier, and of course, stay alive. I just wish I had a lot more firepower because the game is a little tough to get through. Segway! Did I say firepower? Well, let's talk about Firepower 2000. If you are one of those people that mash the buttons to start a game, you might not realize that this is a helicopter game. But pay attention, and you will see that you can play as a jeep or a helicopter. And with the two vehicles, two-player mode gets pretty interesting. So yeah, it's a fun game. But like Tiger Heli, it doesn't really do much to empower the idea that helicopters, in particular, are badass. One thing I'd like you all to know is that on the Electronic Emotions program, I'm going to talk about games that I own. I'm not going to, review emulated games or borrow games from a friend. They're my games. Now, that said, I'm not going to be an absolute purist. This game, Thunderblade, for the Genesis, I don't have the cartridge for this, but I do have the Sonic's Ultimate Genesis collection for the PlayStation 3. And as far as I'm concerned, that means I own the game. So, that said, I don't really like this game. I just wanted to talk about it because I don't think I had any other Genesis games in mind to talk about for helicopters. But yeah, just like Tiger Heli again, it's only a helicopter because they drew it that way. There's really nothing about the game that really makes it a helicopter game otherwise. And like I said, I don't really like it. A longtime friend of mine rented Desert Strike back when we were in high school. It was more his type of game than mine, and it seemed okay, but I never really gave it much thought at first. Over the years, it kept popping back into my mind like it was actually fun. Like I remember having fun with that game, even though it didn't make an impact then. So eventually I did buy Desert Strike, and as I tend to do, I bought the whole series, to go along with it. Now I haven't played the whole series very much, but I have played Desert Strike quite a bit, and they all seem fairly similar, so I think I can confidently kind of all lump them together right now. And as far as I'm concerned, this lumped together series, the Strike games, are the perfect helicopter games. They have that sweet physics momentum, a healthy but not overwhelming assortment of powerful weaponry, and a nice bit of strategy and resource management to work with. You also get that feel-good balance between raining destruction down on everything and also rescuing friendlies. You can take on objectives however you like, but following the recommended order is the best. The isometric view really works here. The menus are also very clear to read and understand. Overall, I just love that this fast-action, destructive game isn't mindless. Half of the rewarding feeling that you get comes from executing your plan to a fiery, smoky success. This is Thunderstrike for the PlayStation 2. Now, it's not part of the Strike series. I had always thought it was, but upon research before buying the game, I found out it wasn't. Now, looking on the back of the box, that makes sense, because it looks nothing like the rest of the series. So this game is using the cockpit view. They're kind of fun games like that, but I like to feel the connection between me and my target. I like to see my target get just totally annihilated. I like to feel like I did it personally. But with these games here, it's more like I'm firing at a cursor on a screen until it goes away. You barely feel like you're even there. I like to play offensively, get in and get my hands dirty. I'll exaggerate, but these might as well be text adventures. So while this game isn't bad by any means, it just doesn't give me the oomph to carry on. Gunship is one of those PlayStation 1 games that I feel would be very hard for someone who didn't play games during that time to go back and play. Sometimes graphics do matter. Now this game does have a cockpit view just like Thunderstrike, but you also have the third person view, and it does give me that connection to my targets, unlike Thunderstrike. Otherwise, the game still just seems kind of average to me, does nothing super special. Definitely a much further step below the Strike series for my enjoyment. What happened to the Army Men series? There was 65 of them released in a span of 3 weeks, and then the series was never heard from again. There is such a wide variety of genres in the series for Army Men, and they're nice, simple little games, nothing super great, but they were charming. And it produced 2 Air Attack games, and at first glance, these games look like the Strike series. However, the map seems smaller and more linear, but hey, they're still pretty fun and cool entries in that Army Men series. They've got the momentum, the weaponry, so if you're looking for a lighter version of the Strike games, both in gameplay and tone, can't go wrong with these. This is City Crisis on the PlayStation 2, and it's the only helicopter game on this list where you're not out murdering and destroying. Instead, you are putting out fires and rescuing people, and that's really refreshing and really nice. It still has the heft, the momentum of the best of the helicopter games. I don't really have a lot I want to say on this right now because I feel this game's more about firefighting than helicopters, and invariably I'm going to be doing a firefighter video some point down the line, so we'll hear more about this one then. I believe Apache for the PlayStation 3 is a great place to end this list, as it's an Activision game just like the first game on the list. Now, I'm not a person to obsess about graphics, nor am I one to say they don't matter either. However, the graphics in this game do a lot to immerse me into this game. The way the camera vibrates as the rotors vibrate on the helicopter, the way I can zoom in and see my targets as well as shooting them from a distance with a cursor, as I didn't like earlier. This game also conveys speed in a way that the other games didn't either, so this game has the heft, weight, momentum, the weaponry, the brute force, but also it seems just absolutely monstrous, this machine, and I am very much looking forward to playing this game a lot more. Well, that was my little helicopter sampler. I hope you enjoyed it, and remember, hold reset while powering down this video.